Caroline with the Expat interview, Thriving Abroad, where we go all over the globe to find the most amazing people who are not only living abroad, but thriving abroad or moving abroad. And that is something that has been on the minds of many, many people. Maybe not so much in the past year, but for a while, people are reevaluating their lives, what they're doing, where they'd like to go, and just, change of scenery, change of pace. So I'm really excited today because I have someone who has made that decision, and we're going to hear her story, and hopefully it will motivate you if you've been thinking about moving abroad. So welcome, Diane. Welcome to Expat Interviews.
Thank you.
So nice to chat with you. So you are a first generation in your space. You're in Canada. Where are you from in Canada originally?
So originally, my parents immigrated from Portugal to Montreal, and then eventually they ended up in Toronto. And I lived all over, but in the last 14 years, I was in Toronto. But I've lived in Europe, I've lived in the United States, so I've actually had some experience already living abroad.
Yeah, so you had that ancestral nomadness is all I can say, because I know my family also, many of my ancestors moved around a lot. So that's really cool. So now you are in the process of moving to a country that we don't talk a lot about as far as expats go, Denmark. That's on your radar. Just tell us a little bit about how you decided on that country.
Okay, sure. Well, as a Canadian, I'm first a little spoiled when it comes to healthcare systems. And I'm a two-time cancer survivor. So having like a health system that's reliable was incredibly important. I'm also a European citizen, so that gave me carte blanche, like open to live anywhere in Europe that I wanted. So I researched a lot of countries. And I've always had a thing for Denmark. It was always on my list of places to travel to anyways. And the healthcare system was really a motivator. The fact that it's surrounded by ocean was a huge motivation for me because I have anxiety, and I find that just living around ocean and nature and people who appreciate these things really help my day-to-day mental health. And I researched a lot. So I did about almost 2 years of research to figure out more about it, more about the culture. I liked the fact that they were super egalitarian. There was a lot of rights for workers, a lot of rights for women, a lot of rights for renters, low incidence of racism. All these kinds of factors was motivating for me.
Yeah, and actually those are some of the things you mentioned are things that a lot of people, put on their checklist when you're choosing, a country like, some people just want to be at the beach all day long and sip on coconut, and other people, look for other things. We're not all looking for the beach life. We do have a list of priorities. So that's really interesting and very, very cool that you mentioned that, so people are aware. Like, you've got to sit down, I think, and say, all right, what do I really want in my life? So, so you visited, and what are your impressions? What are some of the things that make it the place for you?
For me, it's
besides the things that you mentioned, like.
Sure. Part of it is the aesthetic. It is phenomenally beautiful. So I've traveled extensively in Europe. I still have my citizenship from Portugal. And I find all of Europe is beautiful. I mean, it's hard to find an ugly spot, but the architecture was lovely. There was no overwhelming modern movement. So they still preserved a lot of the old buildings. They have a lot of rules in place to keep that historic look. And Copenhagen in specific, where I'm going, it's a small city. So I've lived in Paris. Paris is ginormous, lovely, but ginormous and overwhelming. And this place was like a little mini Paris, so a little smaller, a little easier to get around. Ocean everywhere, which was hugely important to me, because it's not even just about being at the beach, but just to have that nature, that calmness, that peace in the air was lovely, and not too many people. So, I mean, I live in Toronto, there's 8 million people here. I've lived in Los Angeles. I've lived in Paris. I've lived in Dublin, like big cities. So I was looking for a city, but not an enormous city.
What about budget friendliness? A lot of folks, that's the first thing on your mind, like how expensive would it be to set up shop there?
Yeah, it's not a cheap country by any means, but again, I'm Canadian, so I'm already used to paying a significant amount of taxes for healthcare and for, services in general. So I've never had a problem with that. So I do understand that they pay a lot of taxes, but they also have phenomenal healthcare, phenomenal medic as far as pharmacare, like you can get prescriptions. They have like daycare for anybody. I don't have children, but people who do have children, they have reasonable daycare. They have free education for people who have children. So you can do your degrees and not go broke as you do in the States, because many of my friends have kids and they've been saving since the kid was born just to get them to the first year of university. So yes, you pay a little bit more in taxes, but also they're not obsessed with stuff like North Americans are, which is part of the reason why I'm leaving, is this rat race of having more, having bigger, having better. They don't care about that stuff. So they have less, but more enjoyable lives. So you pay more taxes, but you don't have to worry about losing your house if you get cancer.
I love that you mentioned that. And I wanted to bring up that point because that's, I'm in a lot of expat groups. And one of the questions that people, I don't know if it's actually a question. Well, yeah, they are always asking, all right, should I bring my, my blender? Should I bring my electronics? Should I bring my this? Should I bring my that? Oh, I want to move my couch. I want to, and what you said is so true. Like we're just so, from the Western world, so accustomed to having all of our gadgets and things, and we just want to travel with these things. And once you move abroad, I mean, you've had some experience living and being abroad. And myself, I mean, I left a storage full of stuff when I moved out. And honestly, none of that stuff is important to me today, all these years later. And what you're saying, I think, is true for a lot of people that are thinking, like, I just want to get away from all this stuff and the rat race and the, the pressure. And now that we're all working from home, a lot of people are just like, I don't care if I'm in a little nook and cranny somewhere out in the country, as long as I have internet and I can work. So I think your comments are timely for many people. Now, you are a pediatric therapist and you help you help children. And I would love for us to have a part 2 of this where we'll talk about, the psychology of moving with your children. But speaking of children, Denmark for families, I know you said they had great daycare, but what about like teens? What is the, as far as what is the teen scene like now?
Fantastic. Like they're really well-adjusted people who spend a lot of time with their families. So unlike what I would experience in the Western world, like even at 17 and 18 and 16, they are spending time as families. They do things as families. That's the priority. It's experiences. They even have a word for it, hygge, Hygge, and it just means coziness, family, friends, the important things in life. And that is priority at all times. So they are actively present in their children's upbringing. Even when there is divorce and separate families, it's always made that everything is shared equally and the child's right comes before any egos or any bad feelings that might be between couples. So it's shared custody all the time. They have to both experience 50% of the rearing, which is helpful. So the kids always get the right to both of their parents. So from what I know, it's really healthy. It's safer than a lot of bigger cities. It doesn't mean that it's utopia. Of course, they have, like anywhere else, some issues, but it's low rate, less stressed. They have more opportunities for kids to get involved in things, as far as whether it be through a military experience for a couple of weeks or much more socially engaged country. So it's all about experiences and sharing those experiences with people, mentorship, all that kind of thing. So very little emphasis on me now.
Yeah, it's the good old internet tech.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I hear you.
I was just saying about how there's like sex ed in early age school so that kids have a lot of information. So they're very liberal. They drink a little earlier. They probably engage in sexual activity a little bit earlier, but it's safer. They have more like instruction about consent and things like this. So I would say generally as a therapist, I think culturally that's incredibly important and way healthier. And I think the rates of like incidents of kids getting in trouble younger are much lower because they're very, very open about these things from a very, very early age. So I think it's very healthy, and I think it's a good teen scene. And I've seen a few expat YouTube videos where there's actual families with their teens living there, and they make little videos to educate other people who might want to be traveling to Denmark or moving to Denmark to live. So yeah, I would say it's a really healthy environment in general.
I saw recently in the news that Denmark has relaxed all of their COVID precautions, measures, sanitary measures. How do you feel about that? Is it going to, in your opinion, will it just only enhance what they already have? Is it a negative thing or?
I know that they are relaxing everything by September 10th. So that's for sure. But what I like about them too is we have to remember they're very culturally communal. So they do the right thing. When people tell them to get vaccinated, they get vaccinated. If they don't want to get vaccinated, they follow the rules and do the test every 72 hours, because if you want to be in places, that's what you have to do. So they generally are guided by that premise. That's why they don't really get upset about the high taxes, because in their cultural belief systems, it's good for all. If everyone is doing well, the community does well, the country does well. So doesn't mean I'm sure they don't have their, low percentage of anti-vaxxers or right-wing little cuckoos, but it's rare. It doesn't affect my decision. I'm doubly vaccinated. I would get my booster when required because, of course, I've had a cancer background. I don't get engaged in conversations about the right or wrong of it. I kind of think you do what's right for you. You keep yourself healthy and all good. And I respect people's choices, even here when I'm in therapy. If you want me to wear a mask, I will wear a mask. If you're comfortable without a mask, we won't wear a mask. It's really, I think it's gotten to the point where we kind of lost our humanness towards one another, and it doesn't have to be political. What are you comfortable with as a human being? What am I comfortable with, the human being? Leave the politics aside.
Agreed. 100%. Two last things I want to ask you. The language. Most Danes, I'm assuming, speak English, right? That is one of the countries where everyone pretty
very
much.
Well.
Yeah. So if I don't speak the language, I'm not going to run into a lot of issues like maybe if you came to Mexico where you don't speak any Spanish.
Yeah. Yes, they are. The majority of them, especially in the Copenhagen area, they are very well educated in English. They speak very good English. There is a 30% expat community there. So the business language is English. And so that's one of my reasons of going too, because I'm also a certified English foreign language teacher. So that would always be something I could do, as well as there's expats whose kids would need therapy in English. So, and even riding on the train, if you get lost, you can just ask somebody and say, I don't know where I am. And they're very, very friendly. They're more than happy to help you, and their English is outstanding.
Yeah.
Their language is tricky, but I love it, and I'm looking forward to learning it.
Awesome. Last thing, I know that there's many people that watch that, that have anxiety about changing their life. And I'm sure you agree, we don't always have to pack up and leave forever. We can go and live for a period of time, like a sabbatical for 6 months or whatever. But what advice would you give someone who is thinking in their mind, you know what, I need a change. I don't know where to go. What should I do? Shouldn't I? I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, listen, I get it. I have anxiety and there's always fear involved, but you got to do it in spite of. So you could start with the pros and cons list. I think visual information helps people kind of assert what they need in life. Like, what do I need to be happy? What do I can live without? Research. Really important. I have researched, I've done visual organizers, find out as much as you can about the country that you might be interested in. have a requirement list for the country you want to go to. Like if what you want is, I want surf and sun, do that research to find out how you can support yourself and what your rights are there. Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm just going to move, whatever, but you're not entitled to the same rights if you don't have citizenship or whatever, or you don't have a particular working visa. So I'm lucky because I am a citizen of Europe, so I do have those rights, but it would be different for somebody who's Canadian who doesn't have a citizenship. You wouldn't just be able to do, whatever you wanted in Denmark for as long as you wanted. So information is key, and it helps reduce your anxiety and fear around the decisions. So research. That's my advice.
And that's the best advice. I tell people all the time, research, we can't always go to the expats and other people to ask for information. Each person has their own individual lifestyle, and, what worked for me may not work for you. So
exactly.
I really appreciate that you said that. So we're going to do a part 2 soon on, I'd love for us to explore families with children. What is it like? What are some of the things that we need to touch base with our kids, when moving? What is it like for them? That whole scenario, we'll do that. But in the meantime, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how can they connect with you? If someone has questions, or they just wanted to connect with you about moving to Denmark.
Definitely, you can find me on my Facebook, Diane Morera. I'm also the clinical director for PRT therapy services, and that's a public page. So, and I serve, it's for Denmark, Portugal, and Canada at the moment. So you can reach me through there. I think that's probably the best venues.
Okay.
I'm not a Twitter person and things like this, so
Sure.
I'm not.
Sure. No worries. No worries. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. Congratulations on your strength in surviving that horrible disease. I know that you must be a fighter, and many blessings to you in this new transition for you.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.